How's it going, guys? This is Tony. I am a PA student and NHSE scholar at the Keck School of Medicine of USC. And over the past, I'd say about 8 years, my brother and I have mentored and spoken to hundreds of students at some of the top universities here in California, be it Stanford, USC, UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Davis, and the list goes on. But in mentoring all these students and speaking to all these students at these various conferences and what have you, we've come up with the 5 pillars to any student's graduate school application, and really application to jobs, to internships, and what have you. Now, these 5 pillars I'm going to share with you are the basis of what you need to do to be competitive, to be that standout applicant. Now, we're going to just jump right into it. So, number 1 is grades. I tell every single one of my students that if you don't have the grades, you are not even going to get a ticket to the dance. You're not even going to get an interview. Doesn't matter how many internships you've done, doesn't matter how many clubs you've led or volunteer experiences. You may have the biggest heart and have the most volunteer experience, but if you have a 2.9, chances are you're not getting into your dream school. Now, we're talking about dream schools here. We're talking about big time, okay? Because if you want to go to the smaller schools, this talk is probably not for you. That's just being honest. That was 1, grades. Make sure you handle your stuff inside the classroom. 2, community service, volunteer work. Now, this can be anything. Now, both my brother and I pursued medicine, but this doesn't only apply to medicine. Whether you're going into marketing, you're going into business, you're going into architecture, you're going into arts, or medicine, or public health, what have you, they want to see that you genuinely care about your community and the people around you. And the way you do that is through community service. Now, if you're pursuing marketing or pursuing business, chances are you want to do some volunteer work in that field, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to stay in that field. You can go and do things that are your hobbies. I pursued medicine, but I volunteered in many things that involved, students with disabilities. The Disability Sports Festival at Cal State San Bernardino, my undergraduate campus. All these different things that had nothing to do with medicine. So it doesn't mean that it has to be in your field of interest. I would advise that you do some things in your field of interest. But in any case, number 2 is volunteer work, community service. Number 3 is leadership experience. Now, there are all forms of leadership. You can be a leader of a nonprofit organization, but I tell students to start with the student organizations on campus. There are so many student organizations on campus, it is not even funny. Now, you start from the bottom, whatever. You start from the bottom, you start as a member, and then you work your way into the leadership categories like social media marketer, or the treasurer, or the events coordinator, who doesn't have as many obligations because, again, remember, being a president or a vice president of a student organization is hard. Believe me, both my brother and I were vice presidents and presidents of multiple clubs on campus, and it's like a second job, as it should be. Your job is to provide for all of your members, and if you have 500 members in a club, that is hard work. But start small with the events coordinator, what have you, so that you can get your grades on point, because I would much rather you have your grades on point and be the treasurer than be the president and get C's. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's 3. Number 4 is shadowing or work experience. Now, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, if you're pursuing marketing, for example, you probably want to find a small entry job, even if you're helping a well-known marketer do data analysis for $10 an hour. That's much better than doing retail. I have students all the time, pursuing medicine, and they say, "Hey, Tony, I really want to get into medical school." And I say, "Oh, okay, cool. Well, where do you work?" "Oh, I work at Nike." It's like, really? You should probably be working in the hospital as a scribe for $10 an hour, because I'll tell you what, Sally in the same row that you're sitting in class is there, because I see her every day when I go to work, and she has a step up on you, because she's simply working for $10 an hour, the same amount of time, money that you're working for at Nike. Yeah, it might be sexier and cooler at Nike, but she's getting exposure to the docs, to the PAs, to medicine in general, and it looks much better on his or her application. Okay, so curtail your work experience to that, and we delve a little deeper. But lastly, number 5 is internships. You want to make sure that you're hitting the internships on point. Look, internships can be all sorts. You can have all sorts of internships, right? These things are it amazes me sometimes. I've sat down with students. I used to be a peer advisor at my undergraduate campus, and I'd sit across the table from some senior or super senior, as I was, and I'll ask them how many internships have they been in, and it's like 0. And so I'm like, well, buddy, you've had 4 years to do this. 4, 5 many times. You don't have one internship? Okay, well, you need to get internships if you want to stand out. Now, these are called the 5 pillars for a reason, because I promise you, if you want to get into UCLA, Stanford, USC, Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, Johns Hopkins, every single one of the students that you're applying against will have these 5 pillars. Then it's on you to even go beyond that, which we can delve a little deeper there, but you have to go even deeper than these 5 pillars to really stand out, to make sure you are a shoo-in at these institutions, but you need these 5 pillars. So there you go. We're going to delve a little deeper in the videos to come. We'll see you there.